0 of 9 from downtown. Lillard, step back. Oh, yeah!
Isaacs may get dunked on before the evening's over with.
It might happen just here. Giannis leading in.
You may get dunked on.
Payback.
This is something we never see in the NBA. Two players with complementary skill sets on the same team with perfect pieces to go alongside them. But this is exactly what's going on in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now, as the Bucks have managed to go under the radar over the course of this offseason, despite having the potential to have the best 1-2 punch in the NBA next season. So let's uncover 5 talking points for the Milwaukee Bucks 2025 campaign to uncover if they are good enough to not only beat the Boston Celtics, but win another NBA title. Firstly, let's talk about the two-man game of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. The Giannis-Dame two-man game is the biggest weapon the Bucks have up their sleeve. Nobody can deny that if Dame and Giannis can get on the right page and even build 50% of the chemistry Giannis has with Chris Middleton, the Milwaukee Bucks will have a trump card against 90% of the NBA. What makes the prospect of a pick and roll between Lillard and Giannis such a tough guard is simply because of their skill sets. Giannis is so deadly when he's allowed to get downhill, and Lillard is so dangerous when he gets any kind of space from beyond the arc, creating a match made in heaven. The pick and roll play is not only incredibly simple to run, but it's also designed to give the big man room to roll and the ball handler space to shoot, which is exactly the situations that both players are so incredibly dangerous in. Even though there are some questions about the performance of Damian Lillard, there's still no questions surrounding about how good the Greek Freak still is, as Giannis made history last season. Antetokounmpo became the second player since Wilt Chamberlain to average at least 30 points, 10 rebounds and 6 assists on over 60% shooting. It's clear that with Lillard on the floor instead of Drew Holiday, there was more space for Giannis to work into, and he certainly took advantage of that last season. However, for Damian Lillard, it was a very different story, as not only did his numbers go down when he was next to Giannis, but he also seemed to have less space to work into. First, let's start by why Damian Lillard's numbers went down and how they will come back up next season. In 2023 with the Blazers, Damian Lillard was averaging 32.2 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 7.3 assists, with shooting splits of 46, 37, and 91, compared to the 2024 season with the Bucks, where Dame's numbers fell to 24.3 points, 4.4 rebounds, 7 assists on a shooting splits of 42, 35, and 92. The media saw this sharp decrease in numbers and ran with it last season and over the offseason too, proclaiming that Damian Lillard is washed and the Bucks title window is officially shut. However, I'm personally here to show you why these claims are absolutely false. There are 3 key reasons as to why Damian Lillard experienced a dip in production last season, and the first was to do with his trade situation over the off-season. When an NBA player requests a trade, they have to be cautious when training to avoid injuries that could potentially jeopardize a deal. Because it took the entire off-season for Lillard's trade to Milwaukee to be finalized, he entered training camp out of shape, which then led to a slower start to the season. The second reason was his adjustment to being a second option on a team. For much of his career, aside from his early years with LaMarcus Aldridge, Lillard has been the primary scoring option. Transitioning from a secondary role isn't something that happens easily or quickly, which many believe was a major factor in his decreased performance last season. Then the third and final reason was because of his personal life, as he dealt with a divorce and a custody battle, which included court cases throughout the course of the season. Lillard has since opened up about how mentally challenging this period of time truly was for him, as it made it difficult to truly lock in and focus on the games that he needed to play. Now with a full off season, getting to know exactly what his role will be, where he's going to be playing, and his divorce case settled, his production is set to go back up next season. Damian Lillard also agrees with this sentiment, saying, quote, "I'm not a player that's breaking down. I live a clean, good, healthy life. I can do the same stuff that I did 2-3 years ago, and I can do it right now." The second talking point for the 2025 Bucks is to do with exactly what they were able to accomplish over the offseason. It was the offseason moves that really managed to go under the radar for the Bucks, but they might just make the difference between the Bucks being a first-round exit and true title contenders next season. Of course, the biggest signing the Milwaukee Bucks made over the offseason was Gary Trent Jr., who they managed to snag on a minimum deal. Trent has been an above-average volume 3-point shooter over the course of his career, but it will be see what he's able to produce on the defensive side of the ball that's going to be the most important for the Bucks next season. On whether Gary Trent Jr. actually is a good defender or not, it's been a polarizing topic between Raptors and Blazers fans. In the past, Gary has shown the ability to be a lockdown defender, as over a 3-season stretch between 2020 and 2023, he averaged 1.5 steals per game. But last season with the Raptors, his defensive numbers were not even close to being the same level, and his stats on Crafted NBA perfectly showcase this. On Crafted, their algorithm shows us what percentile a player is in basically every aspect of both offense and defense. And they then use those numbers to build a player's overall defensive and offensive percentile. When we take a look at Trent's numbers on defense, he ranked in the 73rd percentile in deflections, which is still above average, but then in defensive rebounding for his position, he was in the 4th percentile, which is absolutely terrible. Then in rim defense, he was in the 36th percentile, and for his overall defensive versatility, he was in the 35th percentile. These below average numbers saw Trent's crafted defensive ranking in the 10th percentile, indicating that he was not a good defender at all last season. Furthermore, Crafted can show you what players their defense alone is similar to, and the players that they have listed for Trent doesn't make him look very good. Crafted says his most like-to-like defender in the NBA right now is Trae Young, who is notorious for being a terrible defensive player. The real question is, can Gary Trent return to his defensive best for the Bucks, or does his last season form continue? For me, I'd put money on Trent getting back to his defensive best, as for one, the team needs him to, and secondly, he's in a contract year on a small contract looking to prove himself. As good as the Gary Trent Jr. signing was, there were 2 more pickups that were perhaps even more impactful. DeLon Wright is set to bolster the Milwaukee Bucks' poor defense last season. Unlike Trent, DeLon Wright is a reliable defensive player. On Crafted NBA, DeLon Wright's defensive numbers are shockingly good, ranking in the 96th percentile in deflections, 98th in forced turnovers, and 96th in defending without fouling. But because of his smaller stature, he's only in the 49th percentile for defensive versatility. Despite the lower versatility ranking, he's still in the 90th percentile as an overall defender. So if Trent Jr. isn't performing at the level that the Bucks need him to defensively, they can just swap him for DeLon Wright and be sure that they're going to have good defense next to Damian Lillard. The third and final big addition that the Bucks made in the offseason was to acquire the former Lakers forward Taurean Prince, who has shown flashes of being a great two-way player. Last season was a down year for Prince, who was thrown into a starting role after predominantly being a bench player for his entire career, and it showed. In 2023 with Minnesota, he was a great piece coming off the bench, giving the Wolves a steady 9 points a game on good efficiency. His defense has been a question mark at times, and his crafted numbers don't hold back, as they have Prince ranked in the 16th percentile as an overall defender, comparing his defensive abilities to Malik Monk, who we know isn't a great defender. Taurean Prince, like Gary Trent Jr., will need to bring a higher level of defense to the Bucks, and now that he's back to coming off the bench, I like his chances. The third talking point for the Milwaukee Bucks next season is something nobody is talking about, which is just how good Chris Middleton still is. In the postseason series against the Indiana Pacers, it was Middleton that stood up for Milwaukee, as he was putting up 24.7 points, 9.2 rebounds, 4.7 assists, with shooting splits of 48, 35, and 90. Compared to his regular season numbers of 15, 4, and 5, this was a huge leap. What makes this dramatic increase of production from Chris Middleton even more impressive is the fact that it wasn't a once-off. In fact, Chris Middleton has been one of the better postseason risers over the NBA in the last 5 seasons. As apart from the 2022 postseason, where Chris Middleton was injured, he has improved upon his regular season numbers in the playoffs in 2023, 2021, and 2020. Middleton, of course, is entering his age 33 season and might have a drop-off in production. But now that he's the third option on offense, it wouldn't matter if he did, as long as he can keep up the same efficiency and shot selection. His mid-range shooting brings an extra element to this Bucks offense, along with Lillard's three-point shooting and just how good Giannis is in the paint, as it's going to make the Bucks' big three a tough guard on any given night, no matter how good the opposing defense is. The fourth talking point for the Bucks next season is actually a problem that they might encounter throughout the season. One issue I could see this Milwaukee Bucks team running into next season is at the big man spot. Brook Lopez, heading into his age 36 season, might have a significant drop-off in production next season. Last year, his defense fell down a notch from his runner-up Defensive Player of the Year campaign in 2023, but he was still able to be an impactful defender and drop coverage. On Crafted NBA, his defensive numbers are impressive, as he's in the 78th percentile in defensive rebounding, 89th in rim defense, and 98th in block percentage, which gives him an overall defensive rating in the 96th percentile in the NBA. Clearly still an elite defender. However, if he loses a step next season, a drop-off might occur, and with Bobby Portis coming off the bench, who isn't a good defender, this could be a significant issue for the Milwaukee Bucks next season if Brook Lopez was to get worse or get injured. The fifth talking point was one that I found in the comments section of my New York Knicks video, as many were giving the 2025 Knicks the best chance at dethroning the Boston Celtics in the postseason. However, I'd have to give the nod to this Milwaukee Bucks team if I'm being honest. After trading away Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, and Robert Williams, Boston are down 3 of their best 4 Giannis defenders. Now left with Porzingis, Horford, Cornet, and Tillman, I'm not so sure about how the Celtics are going to defend Giannis. Milwaukee's team is built to beat Boston, but they have to get there first, as the Bucks' weaknesses are at defending guards, and this weakness can easily be exposed by the Knicks with Brunson, the Sixers with Maxey, the Pacers with Halliburton, and the Cavs with Donovan Mitchell, who could all give this Milwaukee Bucks team serious defensive challenges. However, my opinion on the Bucks remains the same, as I believe this team is being severely underrated by the NBA media, as between a comeback season from Damian Lillard and hopefully some health on their side, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucks go on a revenge tour next season. But that's just my take. Can the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Boston Celtics and win another NBA championship? Let me know in the comments below.